All right, as promised, we're going to be pouring some lead and filling the tackle box. But first, I'm going to stick with our sticker game. I look through them. I like this one. It says fish on, skeleton. This came in a mystery tackle box that my sister got me for Christmas. Thank you, sister. And we're going to put this sticker up. And we're going to go right here. Last week's sticker, this week's sticker. Pretty cool. Shout out to Lisa. Thank you. All right, but the reason you came here, we're going to pour some lead. So the first thing you need is something to heat the lead with. I have a Lee production pot, which has a bottom spigot. I have not turned this on. That would fry my fingers, but I'm about to turn it on, and then we're going to have to wait for a minute for that to heat up till it's liquid. I've got 5 different molds, all from Do It, and then all the different size hooks that go with it. So follow along, watch me replenish the tackle box, and maybe you'll learn a few things on the way. All right, so while we're waiting on that, one thing I was told, or I did some research online and I was mistold, I guess, is that you had to, if you can see this mold here, is black. And the reason that's black is they told me to get a candle and do that. Ultimately, make it black so that the lead wouldn't stick. As you can see, since then I've got 4 other molds. None of them are black, basically brand new. I did do it a little bit on this one. I think that was my second mold. You do not need a candle. You do not need to, unless you're having problems, then maybe you need to look at getting a candle and burning that. I don't see the purpose. The soot is supposed to help it to not stick, but ultimately I don't see the purpose in that. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 has them setting this up. I don't know that I've done lead in bulk like this with 5 different things. My goal tonight is to replenish everything that I'm going to need for the year. So I'm going to do one at a time. And what I mean by that is this first one is an Arky jig. The only size I use in this is the 1/4 ounce. So instead of having one hook out for this and one swivel out for this and one hook out for this and another hook out for that, I'm just going to do this one. Then I'm going to move on to this one, this one, this one, and this one. So it does take a little while for the pot to heat up hot enough to melt the lead. Once you pour the lead in here, it dries super fast. So I said I'm going to do the 1/4 ounce one at a time. It might take me a little while because I want to do probably 20 of them. So that might take me a little bit. But then once I move on to like the sinker mold, the drop shot mold, I'm going to do like 4 weights at a time. And I can put all 4 in there until I've got enough of the bigger ones that I need to do some littler ones. But 1 mold at a time is my point here. All right, tip number 2. So I pretty much use all clean lead. I'm not exactly sure where I got it, but it's lasted me a long time. You figure you're only pouring 1/4 ounce jig heads and 1/8 ounce sinkers, and you're not using a lot of lead. But if you're going to use repurposed lead, which you can, and I've got some from the Mighty Master of the Wilderness, you'll find that you get some stuff built up like that. right? It doesn't look clean. It looks like it's a bunch of junk. It is a bunch of junk. That's all soft, kind of useless stuff. So I just skimmed it, but that candle that somebody told me to buy to get soot on these molds, I use that. If you chunk that candle off with a little wax and put the wax in there, it will raise all of this stuff to the top. I don't feel like I need to. If you need to, get a little candle, chunk it up, and take some of the crap off of it. A lot of people put it in like a actual coffee can, if you've still got one of them, or some kind of tin can or aluminum can. And actually, I'm mixing this up and I'm finding more and more crap in there, and I don't like that. So I'm going to show you that little trick. The best I can on this camera here. So we got a candle. You can see I've already done it. We're just going to take a little chunk of that off. You don't need a lot. And you'll see it smokes like crazy. All right? You'll see it smoking like crazy. But you'll see all this kind of debris and chunky stuff come up to the top. And then we're just going to skim that off with that fork. And there really wasn't that much in there, but just a tip. Helps with the clean lead. Helps it keep your pot especially from getting gunked up on the bottom, which it will do. The other thing, something I'm not doing but I'm about to do, put on a glove, at least one glove, the one you're going to use to touch the pot and all of that. Because this stuff is hot and it will burn you. And that's how fast it hardens up. All these little chunks I put right back in there. I don't want to waste any lead. Not that it's super expensive, but might as well use what we got. And that's how that comes out. So where this is will be a weed guard. We just basically made a hole there. I'll show you that in a second. And then you take a pair of nips and you cut the sprue. This is called the sprue, the excess. You cut the sprue off. I chunk it right back into there. And at this point, this is cool enough to touch. But you see that little, I don't know, sharp edge there? Take a little file. Run your file over it, depending on how coarse your file is. A couple times, 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, 2 times. Shape it the way you want to. Smooth as a baby's butt. There's our hole for our weed guard. Here's where we're going to tie our skirt. This hook, I meant to show you, and I did not, is that is not right. It's almost right, but it's the wrong size. It's a Gamakatsu 3/0 black style 614. So it's a Gamakatsu hook, the line tie is what matters in the mold, right? So that line tie is what this Arky style jig needs. Okay, so as you can see, I need to adjust my handle here. It is dripping. Put my hook in. The one thing I found with this mold, you'll find that there's little nuances with every mold. This mold, which is the Arky mold, if you don't push this silicone peg right up to the hook, you'll have a hard time getting that weed guard to stay in there. It'll just be in there at surface level. So take an extra second with that. I'm trying to adjust this. There is a little screw on the top of here that you can adjust. How loose or tight your bottom feed is there. And I tightened it way too tight. So let's loosen her back up. A little over pour, but not a big deal. I gotta keep tweaking this though, because it's ultimately, I don't like when it does this. The less times it drips like that, the better, of course. So keep tweaking that. There's number 2. If it gets stuck in there, grab your nippers, pull out by the sprue so you don't bend your hook. It's another tip. Tip number 3. And see how that barely sat in there? Like it should be fine, but I don't love that. Alright, so I'm going to pour the rest of these. I'm going to leave it on. You can watch what's going on. But I'm going to turn the heat on, which is loud. Okay, so we got about 15 1/4-ounce jigs poured. I'm not going to paint them today. Today I'm just pouring lead, but I will show you it basically going from this to this to this in another video. But today we're just making lead, just pouring lead. While the lead's hot, might as well get as much of that done as possible. So those will turn into these, which are, it's probably my favorite jig. I like the 1/4 ounce size. I want to get better with the heavier jigs in deeper grass. To be continued on that. I'm sure there'll be a video out on that. But that's it for the 1/4 ounce jig. I'll also show you a little trick you may have seen, depending on if I put it in there or not. My little stopper here wasn't completely smooth. It still isn't completely smooth, but I want the deepest hole possible, so I just have to put a dab of super glue in there for the weed guard. I'll show you a little trick in a different video, how to do that. But I did get the majority of them right at the end. One thing I didn't mention before I started pouring was you want it super straight. You want the center of your eye to line up with the center of your hook point, which this one's even just a scotch out. Not really, I guess. Maybe a little bit. And you want that solid. You also don't want, I filed this one. It's funny, I grabbed the one that I noticed was out of kilter. There was more lead on this side of the keeper than the other side, so I actually filed that down. Let's see if I can find a different one. That was the one I noticed it on. Yeah, this one is perfectly straight, exactly like you want it. And the reason you want it straight is if you pour it crooked or the hook is bent and you're bringing that back, let's say you're swimming it back just to work it back to the boat, that thing is going to start going kittywampus or laying sideways. You just don't want it. It drives me bonkers. So I want them as straight as possible. All right, that is that. Moving onward. Let's see what's next. Let's do this one. This one isn't going to require any painting. This is my most recent purchase for lead molds anyway. It is the hover jig. I should show you the other one. This is the Arky style jig. 1/4 to 3/8, or 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2. That was the one we just poured. This one we're going to pour now is the hover jig. This goes, it doesn't say, it says assorted sizes. It goes from 1/16 to 1/4. I'm not pouring all those sizes. What I am going to pour is, let's see, that is the 1/16 size. Okay, so I am definitely going to pour the little one, the 1/16. That's very tiny. And then I am going to pour, it's probably the smallest three, 3/32. And then, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is the smallest three. That's a different one altogether. Yeah. Actually, that's a different one too. So those are store-bought. So I'm going to pour 1/16, 3/32, and 1/8. So the bottom three. Which I don't know. Each one of your molds will have, each one of your molds will have what style hook. Of course, Do It Molds wants you to use Victory hooks. You can do a simple Google search, and I do not suggest the Victory hooks. That's the one thing I don't suggest. I suggest you either go with Mustad, Owner, or Gamakatsu. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're definitely better hooks. So number 2, number 1, and 1/0. So 3 different size hooks. So I have done the work, and I know which hooks are equivalent to those victory hooks, and I will show you that here as soon as I figure it out. All right, so as you can see there, very different size hooks. This is a 1/0 owner, style 5313. This is a 2/0 Mustad, style 32746. So 1/0 in the little one, 2/0 in the other two. And here we go. Put my glove back on. The smallest ones were on the inside, so you're going to want to remember that. If you don't have hooks, that'll just pour right through. All right, kind of messy. See, this is what happens when it would go right through and just pour through, which isn't a big deal. You just put it back in the pot. But there we go. Should be able to pull all 3 of them out like that. Nip them off. These, I'm probably not even going to file, because I kind of want that to be sharp anyway to get into the plastic. And they don't need to cool down. They're cool to the touch already. That's how fast this lead cools. So I'm just going to put these right in my box. The one thing I don't like about these is this little, it's not horrible because it's kind of like a keeper, but I don't like them being that tall. But they'll break off at any time. So I'm just literally going to pour a bunch, and then depending on the size, I'm going to put them right in my box. Right in the box that they're going in, ready to fish. Just like that. This silicone. The one thing that you do want to make sure is that your hook's in the right spot. You'll know if the hook is off or something. It should close super tight. There should be no gap along that. And then just make sure you hit the right 3 holes and you're good. Like I said, it don't take long. Pull them all out. Nip, nip, nip. Throw them in the box. And go until I'm done. Go until I've got as many as I want. Next, hopefully you can read that. Finesse drop shot, assorted sizes. 1/32 up to 5/8, which would be a power shot. I've got enough big ones. I don't use those that much. The tiny ones, the 1/16 and 1/8, are the ones I'm going to try to pour a bunch of. This year, I said it in the last video, this year I'm going to try and really concentrate on rate of fall, and the lighter you go generally, the more natural the presentation, but it takes time. So in our tournaments we've only got 3 hours, 4 hours. we don't have time. So on those, it might be easier or better to use a big one. It all depends on the day. If you're not getting bites, you might have to downsize. So I'm going to pour a bunch of little ones. This mold requires that little guy. I don't even know. You probably cannot see that. That is a clip on one end, and it's basically just a swivel and then a round on the other end. So you can use either end of this. I am going to I've found that I don't like the clip as much. It's simpler to get on, but I feel like I get more line twist with it. So I'm going to try and use the round end, the open end, and tie knots to them. So should be easy to do. Watch as we go. So I got one there in the 1/16, which I know my shadows and that are weird in here. So 1/16 is probably as small as I'm going to go. And then 1/8. And then I've got a bunch of 3/16 because that's ultimately in the past all I've used is 3/16. So 1/16, 1/8, and 1/4. I am going to take, here's a helpful little tip. I don't know how many tips I've given you in this, but I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to sharpen that pencil. And I am going to mark the ones that I'm actually pouring tonight. Pencil's not permanent. I did do a few. You'll see that I did a few with marker. Those are the ones that I tend to only use. So there's no point in doing pencil. But this mold, I am quite sure I'm going to use more than what I'm marking. So give me a minute to sharpen this pencil. All right, and then looking again, I know I'm skipping one from the inside. I'm doing the next two, skipping one, doing one. So see, I'd mark this. That is one I'm not doing today. Actually, the Sharpie comes right off of there. Skipping one, doing that one, and that one. So there's my little tip. I know where I'm going tonight. If you didn't see, my glove has been burnt a couple times tonight, so I'm glad I had it on. This got a little lead in there from over pour, but that can go right back in the pot. So we got 1/4 ounce. You can see that swivels just fine. And these two are cool enough to go right in the box. There's no additional nothing. This is what we're doing, so they're going right in the tackle box ready to use. There we go. So that one done. 3 down. 2 more to go. And actually, it's only 1 more to go because I've got enough of the Ned heads from last year. I did not fish a Ned very much. Probably won't this year neither. So we're on to hybrid grass jig. assorted sizes. I like the assorted sizes because I get a variety. These go from 3/8 to 3/4. I need some of all of them. So this is the hook that I like to use for the majority of these, is the 4/0 Mustad. I think that will fit 3 out of the 4. So give me a second. We'll find out. All right, so there's the 5/0. So that's a beast of a hook. These are 4/0s. All right. So these are all Mustads, and I'll read you the numbers here in a second. 3/0, 4/0, 5/0. 3/0 is 32886. Oh, they're all 32886, and then they're just the different sizes. So there's 3/0, 4/0, 5/0. This might be a little better. So close the bag down, not closed all the way. You can see the very tiniest gap, and I felt that, and I think it's, yep, that one right there. Now it's closed. No, it's not neither. So that is not closed because, there we go. All right, let's try again. There's a lot more lead going into these because they're a lot bigger. Pretty good. A big call out on this one is your keeper, especially on the tiny one, this 3/8. So you're going to still clip off your sprue. Whoops. And that is in there because it's metal. So you take your pliers, pull that out. Which I should have used that on the other one. That's a deep hole. That hole pin or that weed guard is going to sit in there great. But this keeper and this keeper is good. If it's not poured great, the keepers won't form very well, and I don't like that. I use super glue on a lot of my jigs, but I still want that keeper to help me out, I guess. And just like the little 1/4 ounce jig, we're going to nip the sprues, put the sprues back in, and we're going to have to file them down. So get yourself a system. Biggest thing again with these, especially these bigger ones, these are my swim jigs, right? My 3/8 ounce swim jig, is that is all in line perfectly. So pull that out, grab my file, which I haven't used in a minute. I like to keep the bottom flat. You'll see there's a flat spot on it. I will hit it a couple times, but I want to keep that flat and round this flat. So it's better to skip with. We're in business. And then I'm just going to hang them over here on my rack like I did the other one. Sometimes there will be a little flashing like this. Just hit that with your file. Edge of your file. Oh, I just took a little bit of my weed or my keeper off. Hit the top. Get your flashing off there. Pretty good to go. You want it to be even. So if there's any extra lead on one side or the other, you'd rather it be on the top or the bottom so that it runs true. Like I just fixed there. There was more lead on the other side. So that's a good one. Here's the tiny one. This is my second favorite jig outside of the quarter. This is probably I like the lighter weights. I don't know why. I just feel like when you're fishing shallow water, you don't need these giant 3/4 ounce, half ounce weights. A lot of guys will only fish a half ounce jig. I feel like that's a mistake. I also feel like the opposite is a mistake, where I am mostly fishing a 1/4 ounce jig. I think sometimes stepping that up is a good idea. And that is why we're making all 4 of these sizes, from 3/8 to 3/4. So I'm going to pour a bunch more of these. Hopefully you learned something. I gave you a bunch of tips on what I know about this. Hopefully you learned something. If you have further questions, weight sizes, mold numbers, hook sizes, anything like that, I will dig you up the answer. Leave a comment in the comment section. I'd love to answer your questions. On the next one, or one of the, it's probably not going to be the next video, but one of the next videos, I will be painting these and I will be tying these, and you can see the finished product. Until then, stay tuned. We're going to Traverse City to go fishing with the Mighty Master and my mom. We're in an ice fishing derby coming up, so it's going to be fun. Check it out. Until then, thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time.